You are listening to the Body Charge podcast, and I'm your host, Sandy Sanderson. Welcome to the Body Charge podcast. Today's topic is why worrying gets you nowhere. When bad news floods in via TV every day, it can become hard to find the bright side for many people. If the mind is on a cycle of worrying about things it can't control, it causes excessive stress, which leads to ill health. My special guest today is Sophia Torini. She has a master's in public health epidemiology and is an advanced student and NCS certified trainer under the mentorship of Dr. Joe Dispenza. She specializes in breaking the cycle of negative thought patterns, fostering clarity, tranquility, and joy so that you can be your best self. So welcome aboard, Sophia. Lovely to have you.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate you inviting me on your show, Sandy, and it's an honor to be on your show.
Lovely. My first question, and I must say I love Joe Dispenza's philosophy, and we can get to that a little bit later, but firstly, tell us what led you from a career in public health and network engineering to the forefront of alternative healing. That's like a big jump.
It is. Well, I did what everybody else did, trying to succeed and climb the corporate ladder. And some unfortunate event that took place that went the wrong way caused me to have, well, it almost cost me my life. So I ended up 23 days in the hospital, not expecting to live. And then afterwards, I ended up having a chronic illness that for 14 years was not healing. So my life was pretty, we would use the word miserable. There were times that it was okay, but it was a constant worry. When is it going to flare up? What is it going to do? And the question that I always asked, how can a very healthy individual, because I was very fit and healthy, overnight have all these symptoms?
Was that a big trauma, like a big hit to your system?
It was a surgery that I tried to stand up that I did not need, that ended up causing the complications. I went unconscious after the surgery for 2 days, and then I had my lungs collapsed, I got septic, and a whole slew of things went wrong. So they had me for going out, ready to wheel me to the morgue. Somehow I ended up living.
Wow. It made me think of some stories I heard about near-death experiences. It sounds quite similar. Do you actually remember anything when you were out?
No, I did not. I wish I had a near-death experience. It would have
Yeah.
made my life easier. Unfortunately, I did not. I only have the gap of the days, what happened just before surgery, and what happened 2 days later when I wake up, and that's when the dramatic stuff happens, and not being able to breathe and being on a device for breathing. And then the doctor's telling me, it's just a matter of days, make arrangements for your family. And somehow I live.
Yeah, well, it wasn't your time to go, obviously. But it does sound like something went wrong with the, so you got a big inflammatory response. Something very toxic got into your system. So you had like a toxic shock, because that's
But
quite
I also
typical.
felt my body was violated. I think that's what it was after I did work. So the exploratory surgery that was done laparoscopically, they didn't honor it. So they did what they call a laparotomy, took all my organs out to try to find this thing which I didn't have. And I think my body felt violated, and they were planning to reopen me. And I actually think it was me who made a decision, or my higher self made a decision to go unconscious, because they were going to reopen me, and I wasn't going to be, they were going to reopen me a few hours later because I wasn't stable.
Wow, that's a big ordeal to go through. That sounds very disruptive, especially for your poor internal organs.
Yes.
And if it wasn't necessary, that's even more of an insult, isn't it?
Yeah. I think that's what kept the condition felt as violated. And somehow along the way, well, I had a great physician at the Mayo Clinic, and they did want to remove some of my organs, which I refused, and it was a constant struggle. had a wonderful physician, but every time my psychological state was off or something stressful was happening, I was back at square one. And that's when I decided there has to be another way to heal,
Yep.
because I was going to slowly now arrive to my death. So it was a deterioration. So it would have been a slow death. Had it been a fast death, I probably would have been gone. But that wasn't an option offered to me.
Wow. So you really went to the brink, didn't you? Went to the edge and faced death. And I think that's quite a sobering thought for people when they come to the point of, oh, I'm not going to live forever. I mean, it could be over soon. They somehow wake up on another level, don't they? They look at life from a different perspective after that kind of wake up call. So you had a wake up call, and it was to do with your central nervous system. So that kind of a stress does affect how the brain, how the mind works. But you called on a higher level of knowledge. You mentioned your higher self. So we have our physical self, and we have all the mechanical parts, and then we have the driver, right? That sits above and drives that car, drives that vehicle. So you got in touch with your higher self. You like intuitively felt, I need to survive, and drew on other resources. And we all have those resources available, don't we?
Absolutely.
Have
And
to,
in the healing process, what I want to add is I saw how I unfortunately attracted that experience. So my words and my worrying. So the experience happened because there was an emotional situation that took place. And I kept on saying, I can't handle this. I don't want to be here anymore. I want out. I can't handle it. And I was repeating it. So what did the universe give me? An experience to be taken out. So
right. So that
while there
was your
are no,
fear,
yes, yes,
and fear attracts the very thing that we become afraid of. We give it energy, don't we? We give it energy and it brings it to us. It's the old saying, the biblical saying, actually, ask and you shall receive, right? That's what it really means, good or bad.
correct. And I didn't know that at the time. So now I realized I attracted it. So in order now to go back and reverse it, number one, I had to, first of all, I had to let go, since my background is medical, this limiting belief that I was told that this condition will never heal. And pack up your stuff because after I live, because you'll never work again. So that's what I was told. Even after I was getting discharged, there's not a chance in a million you're going to work. So I had to let go of that belief, but I also eventually had to forgive the event. And the hardest one is to forgive myself for having attracted that event.
It's hard because we have to take some responsibility in participating in, and it's always easier to blame someone or something else. It's their fault. But, circumstances just gather together to feed the picture you put out there. And this is, I think, a big wake-up call for many people on the planet, that we are really not victims, are we? We're not, we actually control it on some level, and but haven't learned how to access those resources. So it's really a driverless car with a lot of people until we get that wake-up call to say, hey, you're in charge. Take control, learn how to drive it.
Correct. Correct. So we have to go, there's the observer, the witness, and the experiencer, right? So we're the experiencer. The observer is some level of awareness, and you want to become just the witness, right? Without knowing how everything's created, but not engaging, and knowing you can alter it when you choose to. Because the moment you engage in the fretting or the negative thoughts, that's what's going to manifest, right? So there's a difference between the witness and the observer. The observer sees what's happening, but doesn't know that he has fully created it.
Yes, and observing gives us a sense of detachment to take some space and to
Correct.
see things a bit more objectively. So I learned to do this when I did the Vipassana meditation course, because a lot of it is teaching you to just sit and observe, to go inside and witness what's happening in your body, where there's a little tickle or where there's it's more hot or more cold. Focus on your breath. What does that feel like? So everything is focused when you're learning about the sensations in your body. I think we need to teach that to kids, to be aware of, first of all, of what is this vehicle that you're driving? How does it feel? And what happens when you push this button and that button? How does that feel? Oh, that's bad. Don't do that.
Well, we've been programmed the opposite, and actually getting back inside the body is hard. But let's discuss why we're not in the body besides the training. When you've witnessed in your reality as a child too many traumatic experience, the child doesn't know how to express its anger, or maybe it's in a violent environment. Expressing its anger is going to cause the child's life. So, because at the ages of 1 to 7, the brain waves are either alpha or theta brain, well, mostly alpha at that point by 7, right? So they have no cognitive thinking to separate or even stand up. The problem is that that energy has not been resolved and it stays within the cells, which is what's causing the disease, right? Disease is a lowering of frequency. In my case, I had a lot of negative thinking from a child, but now I had this traumatic experience that was in my cells. And as long as it doesn't leave the cells, the condition's going to continue.
Yes, and it's about understanding why things happen. Because if you understand the why of it, that gives you a chance to change something. So if we look at anger, which you've mentioned, there's a reason that we get angry sometimes, and the reason is often we need to do something. So anger stirs up energy, and sometimes if we don't do something and we let it go, it becomes very explosive. It has to have an outlet, like a volcano has to explode. That pressure has to be released. So understanding how to move sideways or start to fix something gives you a level of a feeling of control to address whatever issues cause the anger, and the anger dissipates because then there's no reason to have the anger anymore. So always look at your anger as, why is it there? What is there? And it's not someone else's fault, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yes.
They're all triggers. Hmm.
I come from the perspective that the outer world is yourself pushed out, right? So every character in your reality, you're seeing them through your own filter, right? Because in reality, they're perfect. We're not seeing them perfect because of our own experiences. So I often in my work use the 7 Essene mirrors, which is different mirrors of what the reality is portraying. So once you know the rules of what life is all about, it doesn't become immediately easy, but it's easier to navigate. It
Yes.
just needs practice.
Practice at being the observer in of you in different situations. Yes. And let's get to the Joe Dispenza philosophies. So having understood that you've participated and you have the power to change, how do we project out what we want when we've been taught or we got into a repetitive automatic pilot almost of, without consciously being aware, the thoughts are negative, though, thinking about, oh, that won't work, or that's going to go wrong, or we sabotage ourselves, don't we? How do we get out of that kind of a rut if it's there?
Well, we need two things, and I think that's where EFT came in. So first is to get the realization how the reality is created and how your personality creates your personal reality. So that's one of the teachings of Dr. Joe, right? So it is your personality that's creating this reality. And what is your personality? How you think, how you act, and how you feel. So the feeling is in there and the action is there. So first we harness the thoughts, but the hardest component for me was to master my emotions and to release my previous emotions. And that's where I needed some somatic modality, and I tried a few. And the one that worked for me the best, even though I do breath work and I've done some other stuff, was EFT. So EFT came to release certain emotions that were stored in the body in order for my frequency to rise. And now that combination helped me heal, because in order to meditate, Dr. Joe's old meditations used to be about an hour and a half or an hour and 15. I had an impossible time being rested and comprehending what he was saying. So tapping helped me because it's a combination of cognitive therapy and using the tapping the meridians to release the energy from the body.
So EFT, for people who don't know, is emotional freedom technique. And when you say tapping, that's a physical thing you do to your body. I think most of the time on the face areas, right?
Yes,
Face and the
we
chest.
use some on the body, just till the chest. We don't go below the chest.
Yeah. And that's it's almost like connecting the electrical circuit of the body again, which had been disconnected.
Correct. You hit that on the nail. We're using the body's meridians, the acupressure points, so the energy can start moving. So what has happened since you brought it up, the body is electric, right? So you remember the old Walkmans. We would put a battery in there and we left the battery and we try to turn the Walkman on and it wouldn't play. You opened the Walkman, you saw that the battery had crystallized, acidified. Well, that's actually what happens in the body with the negative thoughts. The body internally is acidic and the internal cells don't have the proper voltage to communicate, and they replicate, creating a lower quality cell when they replicate, and eventually the body gets diseased.
Yes, the body is more acidic under very stressful conditions because that's the byproduct of all that adrenaline pumping. All those stress hormones turn into an acidic byproduct, which is a free radical, which eats us up like a Pac-Man, unless, of course, we have antioxidants and countermeasures to neutralize them. And that's always the key thing for people to heal, isn't it? And it also brings me to magnesium. So my business, Electromagnesium, we supply transdermal topical magnesium to help absorb it better when the digestive system under stress is not coping with taking the nutrients out of the good food that you might eat. So it's much easier to transit through the skin, and magnesium has a direct effect on the adrenaline, on the stress hormones. It has a dampening effect in a natural way without any bad side effects, not like a drug. It's just what the body naturally uses to control the calcium. So when you have a lot of stress and you're pushing the envelope and you're feeling like the pressure, that's the adrenaline is helping to push calcium into the cells, which is tightening and hardening. And so that's what forms those breakdown crystals in the battery you talk about in the Walkman. It's the acidification brings in the calcium deposits and we turn virtually into stone. The soft tissue gets hard because it doesn't have enough magnesium to control the calcium, because we pee out excessive magnesium under stress, and we can't get enough from the environment, from the diet to replace what's lost. So you can trace any disease back to that scenario, that kind of chemical basis. So being able to control your thoughts and your mind and how it works, and be the master of your nervous system is a major turnaround in how to drive that car better, right?
I agree, and it has to be the combination of both at the same time. So the thoughts plus the emotions have to align, because a lot of people, let's talk about affirmation. So people go start reading affirmations, but they're highly stressed. That affirmation is not going anywhere, and it's actually psychologically, after you don't see any results, making you feel more like a failure. It doesn't go past the brainstem because it doesn't resonate. I am healthy, I am lovable, and you're feeling miserable.
Yeah, because you're not in alpha. You mentioned the alpha brainwaves. They receive those messages much better
Correct.
at a very deeper level. And you need to be relaxed to get your alpha brainwaves, right?
Yes. And if we can get into theta, that's even better because then in the hypnotic state while you're doing a meditation, now you're more suggestible without rejecting the information. So now you believe you can heal. Now you believe you can have the new reality.
And the
So
emotion goes with it. You feel it in your heart. You feel just by engaging in that good thought, your heart is lifted. You feel emotionally, you feel the difference. That's when you know the two are in alignment. Is that right?
absolutely, you hit it on the nail. Yes, it's absolutely correct. So the combination for me was very helpful. Now, some people can master the emotions easier. For me, it was a challenge. It took me a long time. I still work on it, but I am not this anxious person on a regular basis where my parasympathetic, my sympathetic system was turned on 24/7. So there was no healing taking place because I was always activated. I was always scanning the environment for some threat. And I may not express it externally, but internally, I was feeling
It was,
wired.
it's like a virus program operating in the back of our biological computer.
Mhm.
We don't realize it's there, but it's sabotaging us. So this is a very difficult time to be alive on the planet with so much
Mhm.
going on. And I know it's putting a lot of pressure on people with stress because it's traumatizing. There's wars and rumors of wars and disasters and catastrophes, and the economic climate is in a downward spiral. And we're told all the time, oh, look, it's getting worse, it's getting worse. So this is a kind of external programming coming in that people need to have a defense mechanism against. So, they care about other people suffering on the planet. And it's difficult for them not to be empathetic, the normal, average, everyday person, the good human being. It's difficult for them not to be empathetic, but in the process of the empathy, they're also experiencing the same stress on a psychological level. So, what is the strategy that we can use as good humans on the planet to feel compassion and to feel empathy for the suffering of others in a particular disaster or whatever happens to be coming across the news? How can we save ourselves from deteriorating as a result of that stress? How can we stay separate but still engaged in the right way to be able to do
Well,
something about it?
well, it takes a few things. First of all, there's a few steps to it. Number one, realizing this is a reality that they're trying to overlay on ours. And if enough collective of us starts shifting, we can create our new reality because we're not changing this one. So most people think we have to change this world. We're not changing this one. This one will still continue on. We're just going to move to another TV channel. So observing if you want to with a limited time, because the more you engage, the more you're going to get sucked in, and always be asking yourself and clearing, what is it that I'm feeling in order for me to be witnessing or experiencing this, or what it is that I'm believing, because that's holding you energetically to that reality. If you eliminate all that, you can just go back to the witness position and say, I'm going to send all my love and compassion and truly know that this is going to get resolved, and start focusing on the creation. Because
Yeah.
when you get pulled down, you cannot create. If you get angry, you're actually contributing for that reality to still continue because it's feeding off your three bottom energy centers, this overlay reality. This is not our true reality. And I would recommend or suggest to people to watch the 13th Floor movie or Westworld, where it shows where in various layers of reality. So we don't want to feed this reality too much.
No,
Did that
absolutely.
answer that question?
Oh, yes, yes, it did. So we can, I call it thinking to the other side. When I go to the dentist, I don't really like that process of, having a scale and clean and disrupting all the gum areas and ouch, ouch, ouch. And I'm always in fear that he's going to find another filling. So because I've done the Vipassana meditation course, I think, no, that's my little ego chatterbox, sit in the corner and behave. And I think to the other side. So I take a deep breath and I try and I calm everything down and I think about when it's finished, how good it's going to be. I just keep focusing and thinking of that better scenario. And before you know it, whatever process, is finished, it's over because it's all temporary and nothing lasts forever. So you have to think to the other side of that temporary gap, which is the unpleasant thing, whatever it may be.
So I want to give two examples so it's clear for people. So I can't remember, it was the week before the internet system went down in the US, something went with the airlines.
Yes.
So pretty much most people had no internet. Well, it didn't happen to me. Everybody kept on asking me, how come you still have internet? And I didn't want to know the reason. So they kept on, didn't you read the newspaper? I had read months ago that there's going to be some sort of an internet going down. And I said, I'm not going to engage because in my reality, I choose not to have it. So a couple of people I work with, they had no internet over a week. And instead of going online to find out what the reason was, I did not engage. My next door neighbor kept on asking me and wanted to give me the reason. I said, I don't want to know. I don't want to know. And it turned out of the majority of people having no internet, nothing happened to me at all. Why is that? Because this was a hologram within the hologram. I did not engage in the overlay reality, the reality that they wanted me to experience. The
Yes.
same.
I have similar experiences when I went traveling and I was young and innocent, but I had this belief or knowledge that I was always protected. So remember that old cartoon, Mr. Magoo? Oh, Mr. Magoo, you've done it again. He was kind of blind and he kept walking through circumstances which were very dangerous and he came really close. But always something came along and directed him in a different, and he was oblivious to actually the dangers that it had come close to. He didn't even know. So I've always felt in my life I was like a little bit of a Mr. Magoo. And I think it's because I naturally, even as a child, took on this mindset that you've been describing, that it's always going to be okay. And I think that helps us tap into that universal intuition. We tap into another level of knowledge outside of this physical body.
Absolutely correct. And the other thing I do is I try not to engage with the news and the weather because I like to go biking and be outdoors. And I have a few people who are into the news. It's going to be thunderstorms. Somehow within the rain, there's about an hour and a half that I can manage to go biking because I try not to engage. I'm not always successful because it's today I didn't succeed in it, but the majority of times I am pretty good where I don't fully connect and I get a pocket for an hour and a half and I am free from these thunderstorms that they say.
Yes, and exercise is very good. Get more oxygen into the brain. Watch something funny like Monty Python's Life of Brian, and that brings to mind the song, Always Look on the Bright Side of Life, which is easier to do when you can laugh.
Yes.
So we're coming to a close. Can you give people your website or however they may be able to connect with you and what you've written and what you do?
Absolutely. So my website is tapintourbestself.com. I offer a complimentary 20-minute consultation. I have a lot of information and some research I also have blogs that I write regarding timelines, healing, the seven Essene mirrors, the Kybalion, so various teachings of that nature. And I also teach Dr. Joe Dispenza's course, Change Your Mind, Create New Results. So I offer a combination of EFT services and the course, and I also do intuitive readings when they can't find what pattern is being stuck in their life when they're trying to heal themselves or break free. Is it the I'm not good enough pattern, or what is it in their life?
Yeah, find the roadblock.
The roadblock. And I love helping people. And when I'd like the audience to know that everyone has the ability to do that. So there's not one person that is special, and they have the ability to find more happiness and more calmness in their life and become their best selves.
Yes, and the best self walks along the path of what you came here to do. So our divine mission, we all have important things to achieve and to do, which is why we're here. There's always a big why, a big reason, right?
Yes, we all have a mission, but I think there's a second reason too, to finally bring heaven on earth versus hell on earth that we've been experiencing. So, because heaven is not another location, it's actually right here. We're just not perceiving it.
Yeah.
So, to complete our mission, to remember who we are and help all the other individuals who are headed that way, but to create the reality we truly want.
We have to change that channel, right?
Mhm. We don't need to watch the horror movie anymore.
Yeah, I'm up for that. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I know the
Thank you.
audience will as well.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate you having me on your podcast.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I hope you liked this conversation and will share it with others. Let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. If you want to listen to other Body Charge conversations, click like, subscribe, the bell icon, and click all notifications. Subscribe to our newsletter to get updates on blogs, podcasts, videos, and magnesium special offers at electromagnesium.com.au. Relax, recharge, and recover.